Over the last few nights, something unusual has been happening in the quiet corners of the internet. Amateur astronomers from different continents, people who have never spoken before, are reporting the same impossible thing. New frames of 3I Atlas, captured during its November observation window, seem to reveal structure, edges, alignment, and shadows that should not exist on a comet fragment. What makes it disturbing isn't just what the images show, it's what's happened since they appeared. Accounts that posted them have gone dark. Entire threads on astronomy servers are being locked. And once again, just like before, NASA remains completely silent. If what these images suggest is even half true, it means everything we thought we understood about 3I Atlas was wrong, and it's happening right now. While you're watching this, something has been stirring in the quiet corners of the astronomy world. Not a discovery announced at a press conference, but a whisper, thin, urgent, and impossible to verify. 3 nights ago, a set of photographs appeared on a private forum, stayed there for less than an hour, and then vanished. No archives, no official mention, only screenshots and the same question echoing across encrypted channels. What did we just see? The images were labeled 3I Atlas, the interstellar object already infamous for breaking the rules of cometry physics. But these frames looked different, too precise, too geometric, as if something inside the dust had taken shape. The first rule of astrophotography is that space is chaos. Nature does not draw straight lines. Yet the pixels whispered otherwise. And right on cue, NASA went silent. Not denial, not confirmation. Just the deep, careful quiet that follows every discovery the world isn't ready to face. That silence spreads faster than any signal. Forums begin locking threads. Astronomers who were discussing exposure times suddenly delete their posts. Servers go offline for maintenance, and within hours, the entire conversation collapses into static. It's the same pattern every time. When the evidence gets too close to impossible, the noise of explanation disappears. So here we are, staring at a sky full of data and a void full of answers. The story of Atlas was supposed to end months ago. A harmless traveler from another system, a scientific curiosity. Instead, it keeps writing new pages while the authors pretend the book is closed. Back in early detections, researchers noticed color changes, small, inconvenient shifts that didn't fit the models. Brightness curves bent when they should have climbed. Coma density expanded and then collapsed without solar trigger. The anomalies stacked quietly, each one small enough to excuse, together loud enough to disturb. By October, as Atlas approached perihelion, every major telescope on Earth was pointed at it, expecting the usual flare of a warming comet. What they got was a pulse, light rising, stalling, and fading again in seconds. The numbers refused to match theory. Something had flashed, and no one could explain what. Private observers did what institutions wouldn't. They stayed awake. They recorded. They shared raw data before the official filters could. Somewhere among those terabytes of night sky noise, a handful of frames caught the pulse. Those are the frames that became the forbidden photographs. No one knows who processed them first. The metadata points to servers on 3 continents, one of which has already been wiped. But the pattern remains, a lattice buried in light, an echo of structure where there should be dust. The more analysts tried to dismiss it as compression artifact, the sharper it seemed to become. And when independent reprocessing confirmed the same geometry, disbelief began to look a lot like fear. Then, without warning, the voices fell silent. Verified scientists stopped replying mid-sentence. A research assistant posted a single line, "It's repeating," and then deleted their account. Files vanished from cloud drives. The phrase "pending review" appeared on papers that had been public the day before. You can feel the vacuum forming, that heavy, deliberate hush that says someone, somewhere, knows exactly what this is and is buying time to decide what to call it. Above you, right now, Atlas drifts through the pre-dawn sky, faint, cold, and indifferent. The same object that rewrote every rule of cometry behavior is waiting to be seen. But almost nobody is looking. Maybe curiosity has turned to fatigue. Or maybe people sense that looking too closely will show them something that refuses to fit inside science, or comfort, or belief. Because if those vanished photographs were real, then Atlas isn't just another visitor. It's a message, written in light, crossing the void toward us. And the most terrifying part? We might already be inside the message. 2. Astronomy thrives on prediction. You model a comet's path, its brightening curve, its chemistry. You test, confirm, publish. Atlas shredded that rhythm. From the first observation logs, nothing aligned. Its surface reflected light in shifting tones, gray to rust to faint blue, an impossible sequence unless the material composition itself was changing. Telescopes tracking its spin rate found the numbers staggering, then stalling, then reversing. No single rotation pattern fit more than 3 nights of data. For months, institutions called it anomalous but manageable. But every new fix demanded another correction. Every explanation created another question. By late October, scientists had a word for it they never liked to use: unpredictable. That word is a curse in orbital mechanics. Unpredictable means you've lost the model, that your physics, the clean equations tying matter to motion, are wrong or incomplete. A few younger researchers started whispering that Atlas might be hollow, that density readings didn't match its reflected magnitude. If it were truly fragmenting, the mass should have dropped sharply. It didn't. Something inside it was holding shape. Yet publicly, no one wanted to say the word structure. It carried too much weight, too much history. The ghosts of every artifact claim ever buried by peer review. Then came the brightness spikes, small, rhythmic, like heartbeats. Instruments in Chile, Japan, and Arizona all caught them within hours of each other. A coincidence, maybe, until the pattern repeated 23 hours later, almost to the minute. That timing is wrong for cometary jets, wrong for rotation, wrong for dust clouds. It looked less like outgassing and more like a signal, a pulse beating through the void, measured in lumens instead of sound. Observers compared their graphs privately, afraid to post. Someone plotted the peaks and noticed they matched a numerical ratio seen in human radio frequencies. The chart vanished before it could trend. Inside NASA's Minor Planet Center, Atlas's data page quietly froze. Updates stopped. A planned live stream from the Lowell Observatory was postponed for technical reasons. Emails to project astronomers bounced with auto-replies, on temporary assignment. Outside those locked corridors, the amateur community was unraveling the mystery frame by frame. Some saw tumbling ice, others saw panels, plates, repeating arcs. A few processed the brightness spikes into audio range and claimed they heard patterns. Not music, not noise. Something in between. Too ordered to dismiss. Too fragile to prove. What none of them could explain was why the spikes intensified whenever Earth faced the object directly. As if the line between our world and its path mattered. That correlation should have been meaningless. And yet, every clear night, the pulse grew sharper. Every cloudy night, it softened. Atlas was behaving as if it noticed when we were watching. Scientists don't believe in awareness. They believe in forces, in measurable energy. But belief has limits, and data doesn't care what you prefer. When numbers start echoing observation itself, the question shifts from what is it doing to who is doing the looking. And right now, as you read these words, Atlas is still pulsing, faint, steady, and timed to something we haven't identified. The next paragraph of this story isn't written yet, because the next reading hasn't been taken. But when the sensors turn back toward it at dawn, the numbers might not just change, they might answer 3 by the time the first images surfaced. The community was already tense. Every observatory report read like a contradiction. Brightness too high. Water signatures too asymmetric. Coma structure inconsistent. Then, on a night when most of the northern hemisphere was clouded, an image set appeared on a small astrophotography server in Finland. The files were high resolution, tagged with coordinates that matched Atlas's known position within seconds. They shouldn't have been possible. At its distance, even the best amateur equipment should have produced nothing more than a fuzzy core wrapped in a halo of glare. Instead, the photographs showed shape, edges bending light, darker bands slicing across the nucleus like the ribs of some vast machine buried in ice. Within an hour, the uploader's account was gone. The IP address traced to an observatory that didn't exist on any registry. A mirrored copy appeared on a Discord channel before being deleted by moderators for safety reasons. But it was too late. People had already saved it. That's how the story broke. Through screenshots, not press releases. By morning, astrophotographers around the world were comparing pixels, aligning contrast curves, arguing in threads that stretched for miles. They wanted to prove it was fake. They couldn't. Each attempt to reproduce the image's supposed compression artifacts only made the lines sharper. Someone ran a point spread analysis. The geometry held. Someone else overlaid the frame on verified Gemini South images from September. The alignment matched to the sub-degree. It was as if a mask had been peeled away, revealing what had always been there, hidden behind the glow. That was when professionals started watching in silence. Emails between university observatories leaked later showed they were already investigating privately, comparing the finished frames with restricted spectral data from ESA's Mars instruments. Those readings contained discrepancies they couldn't reconcile, missing signatures where ice should have been, metallic peaks where none belonged. Officially, no one commented. Unofficially, the phrase non-natural variance appeared in a draft memo that was never published. For those inside the network, that phrase means only one thing: the data doesn't fit nature's handwriting. Meanwhile, the community kept fracturing. Half claimed the photographs were clever composites made to stir attention. The other half said they were the most important astronomical discovery in decades. But both sides agreed on one thing: the behavior of Atlas had shifted after the images appeared. Brightness variation changed from random to rhythmic, almost synchronized with observation cycles. When telescopes turned toward it, the luminosity spiked. When they paused tracking, it dimmed. Patterns like that don't come from physics. They come from reaction. And yet, no one could admit that word aloud. A senior imaging analyst from the European Southern Observatory wrote, anonymously, "We see things we can't explain, and things we can explain but shouldn't be seeing." The post was deleted minutes later, but not before it was archived. The next day, the analyst's access credentials were suspended for unrelated administrative reasons. Another silence. Another pattern repeating. So here's the question that keeps everyone awake. If the photographs are fabricated, why the lockdown? Why remove raw data from servers, restrict public archives, and reroute observation schedules to unrelated projects? Why treat a hoax like a classified event? The simplest answer is also the most uncomfortable, because maybe the images weren't fabricated at all. Maybe they showed something that required time to interpret. Something that even now no one can describe without trembling at the implications. The frames exist in fragments, half corrupted, half authentic, but across every copy, the same anomaly remains. At the lower edge of the nucleus, beneath the dust stream, a crescent-shaped indentation reflects light in a way no natural material should. Analysts describe it as a doorway, or a seam, or a wound. Whatever it is, the reflection angle shifts in sync with Atlas's pulse, as if light itself is being redirected, as if something inside is trying to look back. And here's the strangest part: on the last surviving frame, the one cropped too tightly to analyze fully, there's a shadow cast in the wrong direction, against the solar vector, defying every law of illumination. It shouldn't exist, but it does. The next data batch arrives tomorrow, assuming the observatories release it at all. If they don't, these leaked frames may be the last images we ever see of Atlas before it slips beyond range forever. But what if that shadow wasn't cast by the comet? What if it was cast from it? For silence used to mean peace. In science, it once meant consensus, the hum of agreement after debate. But now, silence sounds like static, like withheld breath before confession. Since the finished frames appeared, every institution that should have spoken has fallen perfectly, eerily quiet. NASA's official tracker hasn't updated in 12 days. ESA's social feeds recycle weeks-old material. The observatories that first detected Atlas have shifted focus to education outreach, as if a generation of telescopes suddenly forgot where to point. The few researchers who do speak now talk only in rehearsed phrases. Data under review. Routine recalibration. No irregularities to report. Their eyes, in interviews, tell a different story. They're terrified of saying the wrong thing. When communication collapses, patterns become confessions. The private logs of 3 major observatories reveal synchronized downtime across continents, all within hours of Atlas's latest pulse event. Instruments labeled maintenance mode were in fact operational. They just stopped collecting data. One technician leaked an encrypted message that read only, "They told us to wait until the light stabilizes." But the light hasn't stabilized. It's repeating, accelerating, rewriting its own rhythm like a message trying to sync with whoever's still listening. The more the silence widens, the more meaningful it feels, as though the absence of words is the signal. Some call it caution. Others call it containment. Because what happens when you admit that an interstellar object, visible, measurable, undeniable, is doing something physics can't predict? Funding freezes. Confidence collapses. The boundary between science and mythology blurs. For decades, institutions have built their reputations on certainty. Atlas erases that comfort in real time. That's why the silence persists. Not because they know nothing, but because they know too much without a way to make it sound safe. Every unanswered question is now a wall keeping panic out, or keeping truth in. Meanwhile, independent observers continue their vigil, across rooftops, deserts, and frostbitten hillsides. Telescopes turn toward the same point in Leo and capture faint variations that shouldn't exist. Each pulse arrives milliseconds earlier than predicted, as if Atlas is adjusting to something, like it's learning. Software analysts convert the pulses into frequencies. The pattern forms a curve almost identical to the Earth's Schumann resonance. Atmospheric scientists call that coincidence. The observers call it a whisper. If the planet and the object are resonating, even faintly, then the silence from above isn't empty, it's harmonized. In a conference room somewhere in Houston, a briefing slides across a desk. The header reads, "Public communication deferred." The presenter hesitates before the last page, where a single line of red text warns, "Do not acknowledge interaction. Phenomena until verified." But verification requires speaking, and speaking breaks the spell. So they keep still, watching the monitors, waiting for the next pulse. Outside, the night sky looks unchanged. Stars blink, clouds move. Nothing appears out of order, but the instruments keep ticking, capturing beats that shouldn't be there. And in one of those beats, right between silence and sound, something shifts. A second source echoes Atlas's pulse from the opposite direction. No one knows where it came from. No one dares ask if it's answering. 5. There are 6 weeks left before Atlas slips beyond range. 6 weeks before the pulse fades into the noise between stars. Astronomers call it the observation window. Storytellers call it the last chance to know. Each dawn, the object rises lower on the horizon, its brightness decaying, its rhythm still steady. People who swore they would never point another telescope now wake before sunrise, chasing a moving ghost through cold air. They say that when Atlas flares, the color isn't white anymore, it's pale green, like a heartbeat seen through water. It shouldn't be beautiful, but it is. And that beauty frightens them. Because things that want to be seen usually have a reason. Across the world, small observatories exchange encrypted files. No names, no credentials, only data, timestamps, and the same question. Are you still seeing it? Each confirms the same anomaly. The pulses are shortening. What once spanned minutes now lasts seconds. Whatever Atlas is doing, it's accelerating. Some think it's collapsing, others think it's preparing. A handful of researchers whisper that its trajectory has shifted by fractions too precise to be gravitational drift. The math hints at intent, but no one will sign a paper that uses that word. Intent implies awareness, and awareness demands acknowledgement. Silence is easier than admission. Governments step in quietly. A directive circulates among partner agencies: cancel civilian tracking, disable live sky feeds for bandwidth conservation. Amateur networks reroute signals through private servers to keep watching. On one of those feeds, a faint radio pattern appears. Buried under cosmic hiss, 5 pulses, then one long gap, then 5 again. The same sequence repeats exactly 12 hours later when the Earth rotates and the Pacific faces the object head-on. It's not language. It's not random. It's rhythm. The same ratio that defined Atlas's early light spikes now hums in radio frequencies our atmosphere barely carries. Somewhere, someone at a government array notices. The next transmission from that server is blank. Meanwhile, the public conversation burns out. Mainstream outlets run a single, calm headline: Comet 3I, Atlas dimmer than expected. No mention of the pulses, no mention of the vanished data. The few voices still speaking sound like preachers, not scientists. Look up while you still can, and people do. For the first time in decades, city skylines darken as grids voluntarily dim lights so telescopes can see. Humanity gathers not in front of screens, but under a sky that might be watching back. The object gleams for a heartbeat, brighter than predicted, almost as if acknowledging the attention. Then it steadies, quiet, distant, waiting. Inside a secure lab, a monitor records something no one outside will ever see. The pulse doubles, splits, and for a fraction of a second encodes what looks like an interference pattern. 2 sources overlapping, canceling, then amplifying. The shape it draws is identical to the orbital path of Earth. The technician stares, speechless, before the signal vanishes. The file saves automatically to an encrypted directory titled Response Initiated. Minutes later, the entire network goes offline. Globes keep spinning, unaware that a conversation may have just begun. As the final observation night approaches, the air itself feels heavier, the stars sharper. The last clear view will come just before dawn on December 19th, when Atlas makes its closest pass. After that, it will fade, shrinking into the black where no telescope can follow. The instruments are ready, the watchers are waiting, the world, officially, sleeps. Somewhere above the noise of human life, an object from another star hums a pattern we can almost, but not quite, understand. Its light travels 8 minutes to reach us, 8 minutes of silence between whatever it is and whatever we are. And when that last beam arrives, filtered through the thin blue veil of our sky, no one knows what it will carry: a final heartbeat, a farewell, or the first syllable of an answer we were never meant to hear.